Welcome back to another rock tumbling video. In today's video, we are going to revamp my DIY rock tumbler. We're going to take it apart, we're going to change the design, and we're going to address some of the safety concerns as well. So, my DIY rock tumbler. I was quite proud of it. I filmed that video of myself building it, and I put it out there on the internet, and I got some feedback, and it was constructive, thank you. Had some really good ideas. But there were a few safety concerns that people pointed out to do with the power supply and the cable I'm using. And there were also some great suggestions about how I could revamp this. Sort of what I'm thinking is this is too big. Like, this is taking up a lot of room. It currently runs sitting on 2 sawhorses in the middle of my shed. It's massive. I've got all this wasted real estate here. So I'm going to do a couple of things today. One is I'm going to take it apart. I'm going to take all this off. And what I'm going to try and do is cut the size of the rock tumbler down to about that. I'm going to try and hide the motor up underneath, hide the power supply underneath, and remount the speed controller. So I'm essentially trying to make like a giant shoebox. I want my rock tumbler to be quite narrow, and if it's a high box with everything hidden underneath, I think it's going to look quite cool. Now there are also 2 safety concerns with the power supply. There was some feedback saying that I'm using the wrong cable. So I used a 2-wire cable for this. What I didn't realize is that I should be using a 3-wire cable with a ground and a negative, as well as a positive. I thought just because, you know, like my laptop power supply and that sort of thing just has 2 wires in the cable. But someone explained to me, or a few of you did, thank you in the comments, that is only designed for power supplies that are encased, that are sealed. So, you know, you imagine your laptop power supply, you got that little brick, it's all sealed in, it's all earthed properly. Obviously my big metal power supply is not. So I'm going to swap that cable out. The other bit of feedback I had is this little cover here we talked about on the power supply, which I thought was quite a neat idea. It covers the top of the terminals. I was sort of saying in the video how that's really safe and that's going to stop my kids from being electrocuted, my 3 children. And some of you pointed out that in fact you can actually stick your fingers in the end and you could still get electrocuted. I like to think that my kids are quite obedient and I've asked them not to touch it, but that isn't to stop an accident, I guess, taking place. And you know, kids are mucking around, watching what I'm doing, a couple of fingers in there, and then either giving them 12 volts or 240 volts. So not something I want to do, not something I want to happen to myself either if I'm playing around with a screwdriver or something and I just make a mistake. So we're going to take it apart, we're going to redesign it. I'm going to build this into a box. We're going to cut a slot for the belt to go down to the motor. We're going to try and mount the motor underneath, the power supply underneath, find a home for the speed controller, maybe mount that on the front. And yeah, just kind of change the footprint, make it a bit smaller, make it a bit safer. This motor isn't the loudest thing in the world, but it would be a little bit quieter if it was underneath. And I don't think I'll box all of it in as well. I might leave the back exposed just for a bit of heat, you know, so the air can flow through there and the power supply doesn't get warm. But I'll box the front, I'll paint it, box the top, box the sides, and yeah, have a play. It might be trickier than I think trying to get the tension right on the belt, but yeah, let's rip it apart, let's have a go, and we'll see what we come up with. This is turning into the proper old man hobby for me now. All the kids are in bed asleep. It's raining outside. Wife's in bed reading a book and I'm in the garage tinkering. So I think I'll start by cutting this down to size. Figure out how wide I want it. Then I'll cut a hole in the end for the belt to pass down through, and then I'll figure out how high I need to build this box up. I've got a few different belts to play around with, so I guess that's going to kind of dictate how far the motor needs to be from that gear. I've also got some other gears we'll talk about in a second because I think my ratios are off. So I'll start by trying to cut this. You've probably seen on the wall behind me when I talk to camera that I have a pretty, I think it's very neat, my tool wall, but it is lacking power tools. I have a drill, that's my only power tool. So I'm going to do it by hand, going to cut it by hand. I guess I'm going to find a piece of wood, clamp it on and use that as a guide. So yeah, lucky I got the whole evening to myself, right, to be hand cutting a big piece of ply like this. Then I'll run a piece of 2x2 or 40 mil timber down the inside to kind of box that out, and then we'll build it up from there. So as you can see, there's a bit of timber under one side. So what I'm going to do is shorten these length side bits up a bit and add another strip of this timber down each side. And then what I'll do is I'll build kind of a box, I guess, on either side, like a square out of this timber. So I'll take these off, I'll shorten these ones up, and then that'll just give it some rigidity. So essentially we'll end up with a rock tumbler like that, with a bit of a face on it, motor under here. We'll cut that hole in a second. I was thinking of trimming this down here just to make it look quite tidy, but I think what I'll do is leave that just in case I ever need to mount the motor on top, just in case this grand plan doesn't work. So what I'll do is I'll loosen all these grub screws on these bearings, I'll slide the shafts that way, and then I will cut out a square here for the belt to pass down to the motor. I will leave quite a generous square so it doesn't rub. I don't want it super tight and you know, ruining the belt. So I'll drill that out and then use a smaller, I need a jigsaw actually, I don't have a jigsaw. I've got another handsaw to cut this, but I do have a drill. So we'll drill that out, we'll cut that in a second, but we'll just reinforce this now and then yeah, start to make sort of a box and see how much height we need to give it. Well, the camera died last night, but it's probably a good thing because I kind of just toiled away with a handsaw for hours on end. I mocked up this, and last night I liked the look of it, so I built this kind of box out. I know it's not amazing, but my idea was you hide the power supply down here, you know, put a bit of a face on this, maybe mount the speed controller in here somewhere, and mount the motor underneath so it drives the belt up through a hole I cut in the bottom there. I came and had a look at it today and I don't love it. I'm really on the fence about it. I'm thinking I might have overcomplicated it. I was trying to think, my two main goals were, one, to address all the safety concerns that you guys had, which is mainly around the power supply and the lead, which is addressed in this version. The other thing was to make the profile smaller. And, you know, I've taken it from a good 2 feet to half a foot, maybe. I'm happy with the profile, but maybe I've overcomplicated it by building up, making this box. It's not as flat as it could be. Now the barrels are going to sit higher. Maybe it'll be noisier. It'll be quieter with the motor underneath. I don't know. I think I've overcomplicated it. So I'm going to have a cup of coffee and stare at it for 10 minutes and then come up with a plan, because I like the idea of keeping it simple, right? You can see I'm not an elite woodworker. Yeah, so I might have over-engineered it. So I'm going to have a coffee, look at it, and then come up with another plan, I think. I have decided to make my life a little bit easier. So we're going to go back to the motor mounted on top. I'm going to switch it around, so motor's here and the gear's there. Previously had the motor offset from these rollers, and so it was a bit wider. We're going to do that as is. I've still got a hole I just cut there, but we won't worry about that. What I'm then going to do is frame out this board with a bit of 2x2 as well. And we're going to mount this on the back like so. I am going to hide my power supply behind the back here. I'll make some sort of box for it to sit in so that it's safe, it's out of the way. And I will cut a hole in this board and flush mount the speed controller like that. That way all my cables are hidden, my plugs are hidden, the kids aren't going to touch them, and that, I don't think, looks too bad. I don't think it looks half bad, does it? Yeah, I think we're going to do that. If I had enough plywood, unfortunately I'd already cut this for my other design, but if I had enough I would have like to extend it the whole way, but I think that'll look all good. Controller there, hidden wires, hidden power supply, plug coming out the side, maybe. So yeah, I'm gonna cut this out, screw it up, see how it looks, and think I'm gonna call it, because I got all this neat stuff I want to polish. I got stuff that's just shown up in the post. I got some greenstone to polish. We're going to talk about a cool beach in New Zealand called Gemstone Beach as well. So if you like what you see, subscribe, because this thing is going to be running red hot over the next 6 months with all the ideas I've got up here. So we need to finish it off. We need to get it going again. Alright, so the power supply is mounted now and hopefully out of the way. Still got the fans here and the vents are on the top and the side, so I think we're going to get away with that. I'm not going to put it back on this. I'm just going to leave this open so everything can breathe. I mounted it from the front, what will be the front, to the back, and I found their perfect bolts for doing that actually were Meccano. They were from a Meccano set. I raided Harvey's old Meccano set, found a couple of bolts, and I've mounted it through. This power supply is quite good actually. It's got mounting points on the sides and on the bottom as well. None on the top, I guess, because they want you to keep this fan exposed. They don't want that up against a piece of wood. So yeah, looking pretty tidy. Speed controller's in. I might sort of pin these wires down. The final sort of step I've got to do is make a new lead for this power supply with 3 wires this time, not 2. Don't know where my old lead is. This was my old lead, the last one I made that everybody said it's not good enough. It's only got positive and negative. So I've got another lead. I'll get the soldering iron going. I'll make a proper lead, and then I guess I'll drill a hole through the side or something, or maybe just have that loose, and then yeah. I might actually peg the lead down a bit so that if this was to pull or fall off a bench or something, it's not going to rip those out of the power supply. So getting close. I know this is not the proper way to melt heat shrink onto a cable, but I don't have the proper little heat shrink adapter thing for my soldering iron, so I'm doing the old melty trick. I should also say thank you to all of you that pointed out that this was that I was using the wrong cable, because I suppose that could have ended badly, right? And maybe me being electrocuted or something like that. So thank you for everyone who pointed that out. Constructive criticism. Let's plug it in and see. Actually, I don't know if that motor's all the way up or all the way down. Let's plug it in and see if it works. I do have a fire extinguisher just over there if I need one. Oh shoot, it's on. Look at that. All right, where's a barrel? Here's one I prepared earlier. Yes. At least it still works. I think we can all agree that this isn't the most beautiful thing you'll ever see, right? I suppose if I wanted a really nice professional looking rock tumbler, I would have bought like a Lawtone twin barrel tumbler. But I am quite proud of myself because I work in IT, I'm not very good with tools, and I think I did an alright job. Seems sturdy. And I guess we achieved the 2 goals I had set out, right? Make it smaller, make it safer. So I don't think anyone's going to be able to reach around the back here, get electrocuted. We'll probably push this up against sort of a wall as well. Maybe not all the way up against it, but you know, just so you can't. I also put a few of those little hooks you saw just to stop the power lead from being yanked and pulled out. And it's a lot smaller now. So I think this will sit nicely at the back of the bench. Still have space in front of it to do things. I have been kind of daydreaming about building like a mini studio in here somewhere in this shed. Maybe have a plain wall, not all these tools behind it. Plain wall, rock tumbler, maybe some shelves for my polished rocks and my grit, and hooks for hanging things on. I don't know, maybe I'm getting way too into this hobby. Maybe I'm a bit tired and it's too late and I should be in bed. But I might do that. The only thing, I guess, I've got my eye kind of on a spot of wall real estate over here in this side of the shed. It's right next to the door. It's also right next to a tap for rinsing things out, which is handy. But currently my wife Chelsea uses that space for all of her produce. She's got pumpkins she's growing there. She's got onions and garlic and stuff drying. A whole lot of garden stuff over there. So I might have to kind of sweet talk her, earn some brownie points maybe. Can you move your pumpkins? Set up a cool little studio space. But tomorrow I'm going to get stuck back into tumbling some things. I've got 2 more batches that are ready to go on, a couple of videos we're working on that are quite cool. We're going to polish some New Zealand greenstone. We're going to talk about a cool place in New Zealand called Gemstone Beach, and we're going to polish some rocks from there. I've had a box arrive in the post of something else I'm going to polish. And me and my son Harvey, we've also been cooking up a fun little video where he wants to get involved with polishing some rocks as well. So I've got something else on the courier on the way. So we've got lots coming up. We've got sort of 7 or 8 videos planned. I'm going to definitely need some more barrels, I think, so that we can have things running simultaneously, because they obviously take a few weeks. I can comfortably run 6 barrels on this this rig, so I think that'll be plenty. So yeah, heaps coming up. Stay tuned. I don't think I'm going to rebuild this. You might have been a bit sick of me rebuilding this. This is the 3rd time I've rebuilt it now in about the space of 2 months. But I think this iteration will stay for a while. I might give it a bit of a paint and a touch up so there's not so many screws showing. Maybe another coat of paint would look quite nice, but we'll get into some tumbling first. So stay tuned, new video out in a week, and yeah, plenty of cool stuff coming up. But like I said, thank you as always for watching. You got any questions, comments? Maybe you're still wary or critical of my power hookup. Maybe that's not quite so flash. If you could let me know, that'd be great. Or if you think I could have done anything better, maybe I should have tried to mount that motor underneath. Yeah, give me your feedback in the comments below. Thank you for watching. See you later.